Hello and welcome back to the 8 Days of Abundance with Green Tara. So happy to be here with you this morning. So for those of you who are joining us live for the first time, good morning, bonjour. My name is Kaia and I'm the author of a book called the Sophia Code that also happens to be a divine feminine sacred text that declares your sovereign divinity for over 300 pages. And we're in the middle of a new series called 8 Days of Abundance with Green Tara. We left off on Friday and we're picking back up with day 5. And our journey in this topic of abundance is being guided by the 8 great virtues of self-love that you can find in Green Tara's chapter 8 of the Sophia Code on page 137. So because abundance is such a broad topic, and because Green Tara's chapter is so rich in teachings, it's important. It was important for me to clarify like 8 pillars that could help us walk through this a dialogue about abundance, building and expanding our abundance consciousness, which eventually leads to prosperity consciousness. And prosperity consciousness is, both abundance and prosperity consciousness are divine virtues of Christ consciousness. So they're aspects of Christ consciousness, or also known as Buddha consciousness. And so in the Sophia Code, we work with ascended masters that have embodied, emanated, radiated different virtues of this Christ or Buddha consciousness, who became exceptional examples of what's possible in the ascension journey. Green Tara, as we discover in chapter 8 of the Sophia Code, ascended from the Syrian star nation. And after her ascension, she was invited by the Divine Mother to come to Earth and be an ascended master teacher for us here. And she is such a powerful mentor for guiding our consciousness in getting familiar with, getting used to the concept of abundance, which seems to be a safer, more approachable step for people when there's a lot of trigger around the word abundance or prosperity. So eventually, as you acclimate to the abundance of the universe, as you acclimate to, excuse me, the abundance of your soul, you start to consider that abundance leads to a state of mind called prosperity consciousness, where not only are you able to appreciate abundance, you're able to start to direct your abundance consciousness to prosper in every area of your life, including financially. Very often we relegate the words abundance and prosperity only to financial wealth, financial resources, money. And all of those topics are welcome here. We have no problem with welcoming in those aspects of wealth consciousness for everyone, and for this platform included. We believe that wealth consciousness is God consciousness. However, there's so much woundedness around those subject matters. When we start with the topic of abundance, we start to realize that all of life is abundant and every aspect of our life can overflow with abundance. We can have an abundance of love. We can have an abundance of connection. We can have an abundance of success. And yes, you can have an abundance of money in your bank account or in your investments, in your ROI and your return of investment. So when we start to diversify, another financial term that we can expand upon, when we start to diversify our understanding of abundance consciousness, we begin to soften our hearts to a topic that honestly every one of us genuinely wants to open up and learn more about. No matter what the triggers are surrounding this topic, the call to grow and expand in this topic is far greater than the pain points that we come up against in that journey of expansion. One of the things that I personally discovered in my own journey with abundance consciousness was that I reached a pain point with lack consciousness, with my own limited thinking about abundance. I reached a pain point in my life years ago where I realized there really was nothing to gain by staying in lack consciousness, because it makes other people feel safer. There was nothing for me to gain by it. In fact, I was only going to continue to lose out in life when coming into abundance consciousness. Every time I took an incremental step forward and forgave myself for the past of what I didn't have, everything started to feel more harmonious. It started to feel better. And so, in your journey of abundance like growing abundance consciousness, dipping your toes into the deep end of the waters with prosperity consciousness, notice what feels good. Does the step forward feel better than holding yourself back for others? Does one step forward feel more comforting, bring more relief to you than, staying loyal to an outdated belief that's keeping your life stagnant? This is where we really need to evaluate, when we come into these vulnerable growth edges, that yes, include the pain points of the past, the conflicting belief systems that we inherit from the matrix programming, from religious programming and doctrine, maybe from parents, maybe from teachers, maybe even from neighbors or community members. It's like, you don't have to believe anything that makes you feel bad about yourself. Let me just say that again. Abundance consciousness, one of the first principles of abundance consciousness that really starts your wheels turning, you don't have to believe in anything that makes you feel bad about yourself. So if somebody decides that staying at a certain level of abundance in their life makes them feel comfortable, good for them, and bless them to prosper in whatever belief systems are comfortable for them. But you don't have to agree with what other people believe to know what's right for you. And the more that I have personally journeyed in my walk with abundance and prosperity consciousness, I always felt the relief of coming into alignment with greater abundance. I always felt the relief of coming into alignment with prosperity as a consciousness that is a part of my divinity, and it's a part of your divinity. There's such a deep healing when we bask in how generous the universe is. There is such deep healing when we bask in the generosity of a divine mother that would never say no. Because she's always saying yes to more life. There's such a relief when we bask in the divine father energy of the source consciousness that is always seeking to prosper us, and to direct us to greater opportunities of alignment and harmony, and expanding upon abundance and abundant opportunities in our life. The universe is always saying yes to us. It's always saying yes to us, and coming into alignment with abundance is coming into alignment. Do you want to say hello? What's happening here? Come here. Oh, you're so sweet. Sophia wanted to say hello. Can you say hi? Oh. Saphira's love is so abundant, like it's always overflowing. And so I feel as though that was her saying yes to what I was sharing. It's like the universe is always saying yes to you. And when you come into alignment with abundance, you're coming into alignment with a yes, a current of yeses that are always flowing to you. And when we pinch ourselves off from that ocean of abundance that our source is, it doesn't feel good. Like, it just doesn't feel good. And here's the thing, when you're making decisions about, like, say, what to purchase or what to invest in, there's a difference between the edge of growth, where it feels edgy, but the investment, you can see the return in your investment. You can feel what's coming. You can see the value of the investment that you're making, versus if you're spending out of a low self-esteem. And so that would be a good example of, like, when you're following your heart about what feels good, it's important to remember to check in. Is this a purchase, or is this an investment that's hiding how I feel about myself? Or is it an investment, and even though it might feel a little edgy, it feels good that you're taking that next step of investment for yourself? Is it aligning you with a greater yes, of being seen, of empowering yourself, greater health? So that's how you can identify, even if it feels a little edgy, just keep following your heart with what feels good and respond